Can you believe it? Constantinople, January of the year 532 AD. Imagine 30,000 souls, not just trapped, but cornered like frightened animals, confined within the colossal stone moor of the Hippodrome, the grandest amphitheater the Roman world had ever known. The immense bronze-clad gates had just slammed shut, echoing with an ominous finality, sealing their fate. Outside, the emperor, the very man they had so brazenly attempted to overthrow, had rendered a judgment so chillingly cold-blooded, so utterly devoid of mercy, that its dark stain would forever mar the pristine pages of history. By the time the last rays of the sun would surrender to the encroaching night, those magnificent marble seats, where emperors once reveled and citizens roared, would be slick and glistening with blood. But not the blood of gladiators locked in a brutal dance for entertainment, not the blood of foreign warriors vanquished and paraded in triumph. No, this would be the innocent, ordinary blood of the city's own people, mercilessly slaughtered by their emperor's imperial army, right there, in the very arena where they once cheered with wild abandon for their favorite chariots. A spectacle of imperial might now twisted into a charnel house. How could any emperor, even one facing open rebellion, issue such a monstrous decree, the massacre of tens of thousands of his own subjects, in a single night? And who was the audacious, almost mythical figure who dared to stand against his flight, preventing his escape with nothing but the sheer force of her words, thereby saving an entire empire from utter collapse? The truth, when revealed, will utterly astound you, for the improbable hero of that fateful, bloody moment was a woman. Not a noble woman, but a former street actress, the daughter of a mere bearkeeper, born from the very lowest, most despised strata of society. But before we descend into the horrific details of what would become one of the bloodiest massacres in all of Byzantine history, let us first rewind the intricate clockwork of time. Let us journey even further back to uncover an even more incredible, almost unbelievable tale. How a humble Balkan peasant and a young woman, once compelled to sell her body on the public stage, could possibly rise, together, to command the most powerful empire of the ancient world. This isn't merely a chronicle of dates and events. It is a vivid, pulsating testament to the true, untamed, and often terrifying power of the human spirit, and the deadly fragility inherent even in the grandest, most seemingly invincible of empires. I will meticulously peel back each layer of this extraordinary, centuries-old secret. Slowly, deliberately, and what transpired in the wake of this horrific tragedy, you will discover, will defy your every expectation. So, please, stay with me until the very last second, for what is about to unfold will forever change how you perceive the relentless march of history. Let us return, for a moment, to Constantinople. To that frigid January of 532 AD. 30,000 people, still trapped inside the greatest amphitheater the Roman world had ever known. The colossal gates already slammed irrevocably shut. The emperor, whose very reign they had sought to usurp, had made his devastating decision. By the coming nightfall, those opulent marble seats, built for pomp and spectacle, would run red with the lifeblood of his own citizens. This was not the glorious crimson of gladiators locked in heroic, if brutal, combat. It was not the noble crimson of warring armies clashing on distant, dust-choked battlefields. No, this was the stark, horrifying crimson of the city's own residents, brutally massacred by their own imperial army, right in the very heart of their city, in the sacred space where they once gathered to roar and cheer for their favorite charioteers. Can you truly, viscerally fathom such a scene? Yet, just a few short years prior, this very city stood as the most magnificent human settlement ever conceived. A sprawling metropolis of 500,000 souls, a scale of urban grandeur that Europe would not witness again for another 1,000 years. It was a place where, against all odds, a simple peasant could ascend to the ultimate seat of power, becoming emperor. Where a notorious actress, scorned by society, could transform into the most powerful woman alive, and where two intrepid monks, driven by imperial decree, would execute one of the boldest acts of industrial espionage in all of ancient history. But what, my friends, of the darkest secret concerning that powerful woman, a secret even her most venomous detractors dared not fully commit to parchment. That, I promise, I will reveal later, as we delve deeper into the palace's labyrinthine intrigues and hidden corners. Allow me now to transport you back in time to set the stage for these extraordinary lives. The year is 527 AD. Justinian I, a name that would echo through millennia, sat upon the most powerful throne in the world, yet he was never destined by birth to rule it. He hailed not from the patrician families of Rome or the established aristocracy of Byzantium, but from a rugged family of Balkan peasants, speaking a heavily accented Latin in a court that primarily conversed in the elegant, fluid cadences of Greek. It was his uncle, a former soldier who had seized the throne through force of will and military might, who adopted him, plucking him from obscurity and placing him on the path to imperial power. Justinian quickly earned the moniker, the Sleepless Emperor, renowned for his relentless work ethic, toiling through the night, drafting intricate laws, interrogating his ministers with piercing intensity, and meticulously planning the ambitious, almost hubristic, reunification of the entire, fractured Roman Empire. But the true scandal, the whispers that truly captivated and simultaneously appalled the elite, did not swirl around his own improbable rise. It revolved instead around the woman who stood steadfastly, unflinchingly by his side. Theodora, this extraordinary woman, was born around 497 AD, the daughter of a humble bearkeeper at the legendary Hippodrome. When her father unexpectedly died, her family was cruelly plunged into immediate destitution, forcing Theodora onto the stage at a tender age. She became an actress, a profession in that rigid era that was not only looked down upon, but often synonymous with public prostitution and deep societal scorn. Ancient sources, penned by scandalized, often misogynistic chroniclers like Procopius, recount her provocative and often shockingly explicit performances, which stunned even the jaded, seen-it-all Roman audiences. By the age of 16, she left the glittering, corrupt world of Constantinople, abandoned by a fleeting lover in Egypt, surviving by the simple, honest work of spinning wool. But when she returned to the capital years later, she was utterly transformed. No longer a desperate girl, she was a woman of breathtaking beauty, possessing an extraordinarily sharp intellect and imbued with a formidable, unyielding will that would instill profound fear in anyone who dared to challenge her authority. Justinian, the diligent, ambitious emperor, fell obsessively, utterly, irrevocably in love with her. Roman law, however, was unforgivingly strict, strictly forbidding nobles from marrying actresses, a class considered little better than slaves. Undeterred by social convention or legal precedent, Justinian waited patiently for his uncle's wife, the Empress, to pass away. Then, with tireless persuasion and relentless lobbying, he convinced the aging emperor to abolish the prohibitive law, an act unheard of. In 525 AD, against all societal norms, they were finally wed. 2 short years later, she was crowned Augusta, not merely as a consort, but by her own fierce demand, treated as a true co-ruler, wielding immense, undisputed power. Theodora, from the moment she ascended to power, swiftly established and commanded her own private intelligence network, a web of spies and informants that reached into every corner of the empire. She openly, audaciously dismissed bishops who displeased her and fearlessly challenged her husband's deeply held religious policies. While Justinian imposed strict Chalcedonian Orthodox doctrines across the empire, Theodora secretly sheltered persecuted monophysites within the very confines of the palace itself, hiding them mere steps from the imperial throne, a direct defiance of her husband's decrees. The court historian, Procopius, famously penned 2 starkly contradictory accounts of their reign. His official version, On the Buildings, lauded them as divinely chosen rulers, architects of a new golden age. Yet, in A Time's Secret History Times, written in terror of Theodora's omnipresent spies, he painted Justinian as barely human, a demonic tyrant. Monks, fleeing the palace in fright, claimed they saw the demon king seated on the throne. Guards swore they witnessed Justinian wandering at night, his head detached from his shoulders before miraculously reappearing. Of course, these were not supernatural occurrences, but rather visceral, exaggerated expressions of the profound horror and indignation felt by the old, aristocratic families. For two individuals from the very lowest social classes were fundamentally, irrevocably reshaping their entire world, challenging centuries of established order. But what about the time's darkest times, secret Procopius truly held back, the one too dangerous to even hint at? We shall uncover that as our story hurtles towards its dramatic, bloody climax. To truly grasp the magnificent world Justinian and Theodora were meticulously building, you must first visualize the city itself, a beacon of civilization in a darkening age. Approaching Constantinople by sea in 530 AD, the very first thing to strike your gaze would be the awe-inspiring, utterly impregnable Theodosian walls, a formidable triple line of concentric defenses featuring a deep, crocodile-infested moat, a lower outer wall bristling with archers, and an immense inner wall, nearly 5 meters thick and 15 meters high, bristling with colossal, 70-foot-tall towers. The special, flexible mortar used in their ingenious construction allowed these walls to sway and absorb the shock during earthquakes, rather than shatter. For over 1,000 years, no invading army would ever successfully breach them by force. Within these impregnable defenses lay a vibrant, bustling city of 500,000 residents, a true marvel. Contrast this with Rome, which had crumbled to a mere few tens of thousands, its glory a fading memory. London was little more than a muddy village, and Paris barely existed as a significant settlement. Constantinople stood as Europe's sole remaining true metropolis, a vibrant, thriving testament to classical civilization, a living museum of Roman ingenuity and culture. The city's magnificent backbone was the Mise, the middle street, a grand avenue 25 meters wide, flanked by covered porticos teeming with thousands of bustling shops, artisanal workshops, and aromatic food stalls. Twice a week, this thoroughfare transformed into a grand, perfumed stage for dazzling imperial processions, triumphant military parades, and joyous religious festivals, filled with the intoxicating scent of frankincense, the booming rhythm of drums, and dense, cheering crowds. Beneath the city, however, lay its true hidden marvels, a secret world of engineering genius. Over 200 subterranean cisterns provided its very lifeblood, an inexhaustible supply of fresh water. The largest and most breathtaking, the Basilica Cistern, known today as Yerebatan Sarnacha, stretched an astonishing 138 meters long. Its vaulted ceiling, supported by 336 9-meter-tall marble columns, many repurposed from ancient pagan temples. 2 columns, tucked away in a shadowed corner, famously rest upon inverted and sideways Gorgon Medusa heads. The people whispered that the builders deliberately turned Medusa's ancient, petrifying gaze away, hoping to imprison her dark curse beneath the colossal weight of their new Christian city, forever warding off evil. Constantinople had proudly endured countless devastating earthquakes, numerous terrifying sieges, and the relentless onslaught of barbarian hordes. Yet, ironically, it nearly could not withstand its own people. In January of 532 AD, the rival blue and green chariot factions, who had despised each other with a passionate, often violent fervor for decades, suddenly forged an unlikely, dangerous alliance. Justinian's heavy, oppressive taxes had bled everyone dry, from the wealthiest merchant to the poorest laborer. When 2 rioters, facing execution, miraculously survived a botched hanging, and the emperor, in a fateful decision, refused to pardon them, the explosive cry of Nika, meaning victory or conquer, erupted, echoing thunderously throughout the hippodrome and igniting the city. 5 days of unrelenting chaos, unimaginable destruction, and mob violence ensued. The old Hagia Sophia, the city's magnificent cathedral, was tragically set ablaze, its once proud dome collapsing in a shower of sparks and ash. Justinian, despairing and facing utter ruin, nearly fled the city with the imperial treasury, his resolve completely shattered. But then, at the darkest hour, Theodora rose in the hushed, terrified war council. Her voice, ringing with steely resolve and unshakable courage, cut through the despair. "Royalty is a magnificent shroud," she declared, her eyes blazing. "I would rather die as an empress, clothed in purple, than live as a fugitive, stripped of my dignity." Her unwavering resolve, her sheer, indomitable will, shamed Justinian into staying, sparking a flicker of hope in the hearts of his generals. Employing cunning strategy and the persuasive power of gold, the astute eunuch General Narses subtly bribed the Blues, sowing irreparable discord among the now divided rebels. Then, the legendary General Belisarius, Justinian's most brilliant military commander, made his decisive move. He sealed the gates of the Hippodrome, trapping the vast, riotous crowds still inside. With the thousands of rebels confined, helpless, within the arena walls, he unleashed the full might of the imperial army. 30,000 people, the very citizens who had cheered the emperor, perished in a single, horrific night. From that moment, Justinian's authority was no longer merely restored. It was absolute, forged in blood and iron. But what, do you imagine, happened immediately after that devastating massacre, that unspeakable act of imperial power? From the ashes, from the blood-soaked ground of his ravaged capital, Justinian saw not ruin, not utter destruction, but something far more audacious. He saw a blank canvas, a pristine surface upon which to paint his greatest, most enduring masterpiece. Indeed, from that devastation, that harrowing destruction, Justinian saw not ruin, but a tabula rasa, a magnificent blank canvas cleared for his grandest architectural vision. He immediately decreed the construction of the new Hagia Sophia on the very foundations of the old, fire-ravaged church. For this monumental, seemingly impossible task, he didn't enlist traditional architects, but rather two brilliant mathematicians and physicists, Anthemius of Tralles and Isidore of Miletus. Together, they tackled what seemed an unsolvable engineering puzzle: how to place a massive, circular dome representing the heavens onto a rectangular base without any internal supporting columns to obstruct the soaring space. Their ingenious solution involved the revolutionary use of Times pendentives, curved triangular structures that seamlessly transferred the dome's colossal weight down to four massive corner piers, then further distributed it through gigantic semidomes, creating an illusion of effortless suspension. 10,000 workers, a veritable army of craftsmen, toiled day and night. Their sweat and skill poured into every stone, every mosaic. 5 years, 10 months, and 4 arduous days later, the immense edifice was miraculously complete. Its central dome, with an astonishing diameter of 31 meters and soaring nearly 50 meters high, featured 40 windows at its base. These windows, strategically placed, created an ethereal ring of light, making the dome appear to float, suspended miraculously from the heavens, a divine canopy. Stepping onto the central stone disk of the completed church, Justinian, overwhelmed by its unparalleled grandeur and majesty, famously exclaimed, with tears in his eyes, "Solomon, I have surpassed thee." After 2 subsequent, powerful earthquakes caused partial collapses, the dome was rebuilt, made even taller and steeper, a testament to its enduring resilience and human ingenuity. It stands majestically to this very day, a radiant beacon of human artistry and engineering brilliance. Yet, the city did not live by miracles and monumental architecture alone. It thrived, just as crucially, on bread and secrets. The government, understanding the vital link between social welfare and stability, distributed 80,000 daily bread rations to the poor, a crucial social welfare program that staved off hunger and unrest. Their diet typically consisted of coarse barley bread, pungent garlic, hearty onions, and various nourishing porridges, often supplemented by Times tahana, a dried, fermented food that could be stored for months. The wealthy, however, indulged in lavish feasts of seafood, exotic spices imported from distant India, and luxurious silk woven from far-off China, transported along arduous, often dangerous routes through the Persian Empire. Justinian, a man of strategic brilliance, resolved this precarious silk problem. a critical economic vulnerability with a daring act of industrial espionage that would reshape global trade. In 552 AD, two intrepid Nestorian monks, acting as imperial agents for Justinian, smuggled precious silkworm eggs from deep within China, hidden ingeniously within hollow bamboo canes. This audacious feat shattered Persia's lucrative, centuries-old monopoly on the silk trade. Soon, thriving silk workshops sprang up across the Byzantine Empire, ensuring a vital economic secret that sustained Constantinople's prosperity for another 800 years. But do you truly realize how profoundly this daring act of espionage reshaped the global economic landscape, altering trade routes and power dynamics for centuries? I will delve into the astonishing, ripple effect details of its impact when we reach the segment on the true, overarching disaster that struck the empire, a calamity far beyond human control. But even grand empires, forged in ambition and cunning, are vulnerable to the whims of a chaotic universe. In 536 AD, the very sun itself seemed to vanish, plunged into an 18-month-long, suffocating winter caused by a colossal volcanic eruption, likely somewhere in Iceland or Central America. Famine spread unchecked across the globe, decimating populations and causing widespread misery. Then, in 542 AD, the bubonic plague, the terrifying plague of Justinian, arrived, carried insidiously by grain ships from fertile Egypt. 5,000 people died each day in Constantinople, their lives extinguished in swift, agonizing succession. Corpses piled high in the streets, overflowing the city's towers and walls, creating a stench of death that permeated everything. Even Justinian himself contracted the dreaded disease, clinging to life. During his profound illness, Theodora, ever the Iron Empress, seized absolute power, ruthlessly crushing every nascent conspiracy and maintaining order with an unyielding grip. The empire lost a staggering 1/3 of its entire population to the plague, a demographic catastrophe. Justinian's grand dream of reuniting the entire Roman Empire, of reclaiming its lost glory, lay utterly shattered, a tragic casualty of pestilence and cosmic disaster. Yet, despite these monumental setbacks, their greatest and most enduring legacy was not built of stone, nor gold, nor even military conquest. In 528 AD, Justinian, with his relentless drive, ordered the complete codification and revision of all existing Roman laws into what became known as the Times, Corpus Juris Civilis, Times Body of Civil Law. This unified, comprehensive body of law meticulously covered property rights, contracts, criminal offenses, and, crucially, human rights. It lay largely forgotten for centuries in monastic libraries, a silent blueprint, only to be rediscovered in the 11th century, sparking a legal renaissance. Today, the civil law systems of France, Germany, Spain, Japan, and dozens of other modern nations across the globe all trace their foundational principles, their very essence, back to this single, monumental text, meticulously compiled in Constantinople by an emperor born a peasant. As I reflect on the extraordinary, tumultuous journey of Justinian and Theodora, I cannot help but be moved to my very core. As someone who has witnessed countless ups and downs in life, the rise and fall of personal fortunes, I see in them the very essence of ordinary people like us, thrust into extraordinary circumstances. A peasant from an impoverished land and a young woman once forced to perform on stage together. They built and rebuilt a magnificent empire, an empire whose laws still resonate and live on, silently shaping our world today. Their lives teach us an invaluable, timeless lesson, that no birthright dictates destiny. Only unwavering will, profound intellect, indomitable courage in the face of impossible odds, and an unshakable belief in oneself can truly alter the course of history, leaving an indelible mark on humanity. In today's complex world, as we grapple with unprecedented global pandemics, deep social divisions, and perplexing economic crises, the astonishing story of Constantinople, of Justinian and Theodora, serves as a powerful, resonant reminder. True strength lies not in formidable walls of stone or glittering hoards of gold, but within the boundless, resilient spirit of humanity itself. We possess, individually and collectively, the profound capacity to be more resilient, more creative, and more united than ever before. This is the most invaluable lesson history lovingly bequeaths to us, to our children, ensuring that future generations never forget that even in the deepest, most suffocating darkness, humanity can ignite the grandest, most enduring light. Constantinople was not merely a Rome that fell. It was, in its true essence, the last Rome that did times, not times fall. And its enduring legacy continues to uplift, inspire, and illuminate our world today. If this epic story has touched your heart, if you feel inspired by the extraordinary, untamed power of ordinary people to achieve the impossible, please share this video with your family and friends so they too can hear and reflect on these timeless lessons. And if you wish to join me in exploring more of the magnificent empires, the hidden secrets, and the dramatic figures that have so profoundly shaped our world, hit the like button and follow to ensure you don't miss any upcoming episodes. Thank you for staying until the very end. We will meet again on our next historical journey.